This is how that helped me. I am now stronger. I like to exercise, right? And so it's only by breaking down the muscle through picking up the weight that allows that muscle to grow stronger. So if we can look at the things in our lives that were challenging, that were trauma, that were really hard, that gave us false information, that is just an opportunity to do a rep in our system to make ourselves stronger. That is a breakdown to make ourselves repair and become stronger. And I really love that analogy.
Welcome back to the Sacred Soul Podcast. I'm super excited for today's conversation. Joseph, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, we have the pleasure of knowing each other through the Fit for Service community and even just supporting each other from afar and watching our journeys in the last, 3 or 4 years. It's been such an honor.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah. So I'd love to ask so many people this question. Who are you and who are you not?
Yeah, what a beautiful question. And I think that for me in my path and in my journey right now, that is what I'm finding clarity on. There have been some instances in my life recently that have led me to a deeper path of understanding myself and a deeper understanding of who I'm not anymore. So I'm currently, I think, in the very middle of rewriting that process.
Beautiful. And so if you had to take a stab at it, like what would the who am I piece be? Or maybe even start with the who am I not? Sometimes I've done that for myself as well. And then that led me back to the who am I right now today?
Sure. What I've come up against is who I'm not is my thoughts of who I think I am or who I think I was. I grew up in a Christian household. I thought that I was just going to play sports for my entire life, or at least that was my goal. And circumstances in my life led me to a different path. And who I believe I'm becoming is somebody who deeply desires to be of service and to offer different types of healing modalities for humanity and for the people who are ready to step into their own discovery of who they are. And so I think that who I am and who I desire to continue to become is a healer, a person who holds a safe space for people to be vulnerable, to feel what they may not have felt allowed to feel for most of their life, so they can discover deeper parts of themselves.
So powerful. And like all the healers right now just have such a potent and powerful role in the evolution of society. So I'm thrilled that you're on that journey. Thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about your childhood. One thing that resonated with me is the Christian background. So let's chat about that. And I know a lot of my listeners also have. We have all had this journey through being in some type of restriction in regards to our life beliefs or religion or something in our upbringing, and then breaking through that glass ceiling. So what did that look like or feel like growing up in that background?
Sure. My parents split when I was 4. So I was raised by a single mom with a younger sister for 10 years. And my birth was a difficult process. I was sick inside of the womb, and the doctors were actually advising my 21-year-old mother to possibly consider termination of the pregnancy because I was not going to live a good life. I was going to be very sick. It was going to be very hard for her. But she told me that it was her faith that allowed her to accept whatever it was that she was going to be given. And so in that, she raised 2 kids and healthy children, luckily, thank God. And so it was important that we were raised in the church and in the Christian church. I grew up in California, Southern California, and the church that we went to was great. Had no problems. At 13, I did get in trouble and ended up moving to Florida. Now, church in Florida is a little bit different. It's a little more fire and brimstone, and it was definitely something that I didn't connect with. So after I graduated, I was away from the church for about 10 years. And I had moved back in with my mom after that for some help. And she was still very much in her faith and in the Christian faith. And so I found my way back to church, and it was great. I then started to have some questions, big questions. about religion, about the origins, about, how do I know that this book has not changed in the last 2,000 years, and these types of questions. And when they couldn't be answered, I was looking for something else. I then found Aubrey Marcus's podcast with Paul Chek, and the way that they were describing God was very resonant to me. It's how I found Aubrey. It's how I found Fit for Service. That was the same year he launched Fit for Service, and I feel very blessed to have been accepted into the first year where there were no statistics, there were no, this is what we offer, this is what it is. It was a group of people who were brave enough to say yes, to come together with the idea that we wanted to be fit for service, and that meant healing ourselves, so then we can then go out into the world and be of service to others.
Beautiful. And what did it feel like growing up with that that life change of your parents splitting up at 4?
It was difficult. I think I've come to find that at 4 years old, I tried to become the man of the house, right? So as a young boy, I tried to figure out what it was like to be a protector, to be a provider, to really step up and have to grow up fast, because I felt the urge to take care of my mom and my younger sister. And so that was my journey, but I didn't have any healthy masculine example in my life for almost ever, really. Even after she remarried, my stepdad's a fantastic man. He taught me a lot. I'm very grateful for him. And he had his shadows, right? So it was a process of growing up very quickly, but not having a blueprint or any information on how to do so. I believe that's why Fit for Service called to me, because it was led by a group of men who have done their work to be vulnerable, to be loving, and as well to be strong.
Yeah. And what do you think were the core wounds of growing up, trying to grow up so early, trying to embody that masculine energy so early, probably before your time? What are the core wounds there?
Sure. The first one is abandonment. My dad left, right? That was my story. My dad left. He essentially, quote unquote, chose another family to raise. And although I did see him every other weekend, it was more of, he wanted to make sure we were having fun and that everything was good, right? But I did see him being the father to somebody else, somebody else's kids. And they really feel he's their dad. He raised them from a young age. So I have 3 step siblings. I do want to preface and say that I'm very close to them. They've been my family for over 20 years, right? But these are core wounds that I uncovered through this healing process. 1 of abandonment, 2 of never feeling enough because I was so young, trying to be something that I didn't know how to be, and something I didn't have the capacity to be yet, right? So there was a deep core of unworthiness and not really knowing, which is hard. It's really, really hard to want to be something and not know how, and not know if you're doing it right. So kind of walking on it, like, am I good? Am I okay? And I focused that through sports. Luckily, I was athletic and good at sports. So as long as I was good and I was chosen in the top 3, picks, when you split for dodgeball and you want to be picked first, right? It's a compliment. It's a recognition of your skills. And so it was through sports that I really found how to be accepted. As long as I was good, then I was good enough. But when I failed, it was really hard because then I wasn't good enough, and it really brought up that core wound of unworthiness.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And one thing I want to touch on is I love how you paid reverence and respect to your family, right? As you're describing the impact of how you grew up. This is so important because I think sometimes people think like, oh, I don't want to blame my dad or my siblings or, and they almost feel like they're talking bad about them in a way. And I like to reflect back to people. It's like, no, you can still love them, honor them, be close with them. Just like you mentioned, Joseph, like, you're like, I gotta say, like, they are my family. Like, well, I love them. That's what you were saying in so many words. And at the same time, and you know this through healing, we need to understand the impact that things had on us. So it's not about blame. It's not about blame. And you articulated that so perfectly, because you're like, I still felt abandoned, even though I'm not blaming my dad. I'm not blaming my siblings. There was the impact of abandonment and unworthiness. And then through Fit for Service and all the other journeys that you're doing right now, it's like, that's how you're integrating everything. And I want to shift into that. So tell us, what has your integration journey, I use integrating and healing interchangeably. What has your integration journey been like through Fit for Service and some of the other things?
Hard and simultaneously absolutely beautiful, right? The silver linings of recognizing the core wounds is, one, the opportunity to practice forgiveness. And we've heard it many times, but forgiveness is not to let anybody off the hook for what they've done to you, but it's to find peace in yourself, right? It's to let go of those core wounds. And so I got the ability to see those core wounds, to do my work to heal those, which now I have the capacity to hold others in if and or when they show up to do their healing and they have the same thing. The old story of the wounded healer. He can help heal because he's walked through the same fire. And so I feel so blessed and so lucky to have found Fit for Service, because they gave me the tools that I needed to do the healing that I needed for myself. They didn't heal me. They gave me a space and tools to use to recognize those core wounds, to love myself through them, to forgive in a very clean and beautiful way, which allowed more acceptance and love for my dad, for my step siblings, for my stepmom, for the same things that caused the core wounds allowed me to find more peace and love within myself and more acceptance. And so the integrating has been a continuous journey of looking inside and, okay, what else is there? What else is there? What else is there? And I now have the tools to, when that comes up, not to push it away, right? Not to say it's not real and not to avoid it, but to go, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to feel this completely, because the way through is to feel, right? So you feel it, you accept it, you give it love, you recognize that you're not that young little boy anymore. You don't have to be scared, and we can move on, and you can let your inner child know that he's safe within you, because you've grown into somebody who's healed those things and has the capacity to hold them and hold that inner child in a way that he needed when he was younger.
So many great things there. Forgiveness, acceptance, holding your inner child, being there for your inner child. I like to say reparent the child within us.
Yeah.
Those are all powerful things. And the thread with all of those things that you mentioned is it's really awareness. It's the awareness that brings the healing. It's the self-awareness that sets the stage for that. And then also you were in a container and you're still in other containers, other journeys that you're doing. So the environment matters, right? So that's helpful, but it's our awareness that brings the healing. It brings the integration. Because I think sometimes we're like, what is healing? Why does forgiveness work? Why does acceptance work? It's the magic is the awareness. Any thoughts on that?
Bullseye, right? Awareness is the thing.
Yeah.
For so many years, I got caught in my stories, and they're stories. Not that they're not true or they didn't happen, but they are stories. And with awareness, you're able to get a bird's eye view of the story. Okay, that is true. And I no longer have to accept that story as full truth or who I am anymore. Awareness is everything, and it's a daily practice of mine. In my meditations, what I really love to do is at one point call in my inner child and just from my heart really share so much love. Let him know that he's safe. And what I'll do then is I'll kind of, in my awareness, do a 180 and look at the man that I desire to become. And when I can feel that awareness, I can see the man who has overcome all of the things that needed to be overcome. Everything is done, right? I believe that there's truth in all religions. And so Christianity offers one that says, pray as if it's already done. And so when I connect to that higher man, everything is done. It's already done. He has overcome all of the challenges. He has done the things that he needs to do, right? He has so much wisdom from the situations that he experienced in life, it's already done. And for me, it's such a beautiful example or practice of awareness that whatever I'm going through right now, to know that I'm strong enough, to know that it's already done, to know that I will figure it out, and to know that I will cultivate the medicine needed to then share with everybody else. The hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, go into the cave, slay the dragon, get the medicine, and return it back to your community. And so that little practice in meditation has really helped me grow my awareness to not be so lost in the stories of life, but to know that this is for me, not against me.
So beautiful. And in what moments do you know, or like just looking back, in what moments did you have to make a decision to observe the story and then to also detach from it, or the decision to remove the emotional charge or clear the emotional baggage, or like there's always a moment of deciding, of choosing, when we're like, oh yeah, I get all of this and now I'm pulling myself out of the trenches. I'm going to go over here with all of the pain and power that I just discovered. I'm going to go in this direction. So do you have any moments like that you could share?
Absolutely. And the moments were when I had no other choice, right? When I was so lost, I was so disconnected, isolating myself because of feeling the unworthiness and nobody loves me and I can't do this and I can't do that, when I had no other choice. When you're broken down to nothing, what choice do you have but to use the tools that I was shown through Fit for Service to create that awareness and go, okay, I felt this, I've been lost in it, what's next? Oh, okay, awareness. How do we move on from this? So the decision came from having no other decision. Right? Yeah.
Powerful. And so what you had a journey in Mexico that also was a part of your healing and integration. What was that like?
Are we talking about the Sundance or are we talking about the Vision Quest?
Whatever comes to mind first.
Yeah, sure. So 3 years ago, 2021, I started my Sundance journey. Really quickly, Sundance is a very ancient Lakota Indian initiation ceremony. It's 4 days of fasting, of prayer, and sweat lodge. This was a real big part of my growth as coming into what it looks like to be a divine masculine. It really challenged so many ways and so many ideas, right? When I was expressing that I was going to do this, most people were like, you can't not eat and drink water for that long, you're going to die. And it was like, yeah, maybe not physically die, right? But something will die, something will be released, something will be shed. And so that's been a really big part of my journey. And just last weekend, I did my first Vision Quest, which is on the same mountain that I do the Sundance. And it's 4 days of sitting in nature, totally fasted. You have a tarp for protection from the weather. You have a sleeping bag, a blanket, and I had a neck pillow that you travel with as a pillow. And you just sit in silence and you connect with nature. And I really went into it thinking it was going to be a big God moment. And I was going to have this, because it's called the Vision Quest, right? I'm going to have this beautiful vision of what my life's going to be like and what's next and where do I go? And it actually ended up being a lot of shadow work. When you're with yourself, you have no distraction, no telephone, no person to rely on, you have nothing but yourself and nature and your thoughts. And so it really was a deep, deep journey into my subconscious. And maybe what I hope is the last remaining darkness and shadows that I carry with me in my subconscious to be healed so I can really fully step into my power, to step into my medicine, and to walk in the world in a really good way. And in the good way, I mean of being of service to others.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you for describing like what the Sundance is. I think it's a powerful journey. And I love how your response to like where people are like, oh, you can't go that long without water or food. And it's almost like you just, at least how I'm interpreting this, is like you had this like nothing to lose energy. Like, yeah, maybe. Did you have fear there, or like, am I interpreting that correctly? Like you were just like all in, ready to go?
Absolutely. It actually came through a medicine ceremony vision of the sun dance. And
Mm,
luckily, somebody from Fit for Service was connected to a sun dancer. It was a whole process of yes and no and yes and no. But literally 2 months after that medicine ceremony, I was attending my first sun dance. And it was a big part of me questioning the stories that were told, right? We're
mhm.
taught that you have to eat every day and you have to drink water every day, or we're taught these things. And I like to believe that most of the times we're taught those things in good faith, right? For
Yeah,
protection.
sure. Hmm.
And so I came up against this belief and I was like, well, this is a very old tradition. Thousands and thousands of people over the last couple hundred years, probably more, have done this and have survived. And so let's go into that. Why this story? And if they did it, maybe I can too. And it was again in a point in my life where it was like, okay, if that's what it is, then that's what it is, right? I no longer desire to live with this pain. I no longer desire to live with this doubt and this fear and this unworthiness. So let's go as deep as we can and see what's there and see what is on the other side. And it's been one of the
Yeah.
biggest blessings of my life.
Yeah, yeah. And that's an important point too. It's like there's a time and place for everything. And like you said, you like to believe that we were taught some of these things in good faith. And it's like, yes, like, because there is a such thing as denying the self, right? Like denying the self-nourishment, like that is a real thing. Some people fall into that, even in modern day society. There was a time where I was on a medication, pharmaceutical medication, and the way it would alter my brain, I was kind of in that vibration of denying the self. Like I did forget to drink water and eat, and I actually needed to because that medicine was so taxing on my body. And plus, I was like doing a marathon in grad school and getting my master's degree and doing real estate and all the things. So I needed to nourish myself. And I wasn't. So it's just like, but that was the time and place for me to do that. And then, when we do take away, when we go into fast, right? And we cleanse the body for the purposes with the intention of getting ourselves back to what I like to call factory settings. There's a We're doing that in a time and place for a short period of time. We're not doing it over 30 days. Well, some people might do those kinds of quests for that long. But there's an intention. There's always an intention to really, I don't want to say get to a destination, but to really do some excavating or to reset our spirit, our soul, our physical body in certain ways. So I just want to hone in that intentionality is so important. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that fasting, obviously now there's so much research and studies that have come out that say that it's really good for the body, right?
Mhm.
And in doing those hard things and doing things that we're told maybe we shouldn't do, what a beautiful gift we've been given in this body. It knows, it has this wonderful intelligence to sometimes store nutrients, right? And when
Mhm.
we fast, we put that body in a state where it needs to use those nutrients, but it can do it in such a way that it protects us. And so in the process of learning how to fast and doing fasting and going into 4-day fasts with no food and no water, I understood that I'm really strong. My body knows what it's doing. I have so much more faith in my body, of its healing abilities, of its wisdom, of its natural born intelligence. And that's been such a beautiful gift to feel into, is like, okay, I totally understand and accept that you believe if you don't eat or drink water for 4 days, you're going to pass away. I understand that. I have also done it. You're going to be okay. And you're going to find deeper healing and wisdom inside of this vessel that we've been given to experience this reality in.
Yeah. And like what Andrew Huberman says, it's deliberately doing something with the intention, with the goal, so to speak. I'm going to say that loosely, because you can't can control like what emotions come out. You can't really control how your shadow work happens during that fast. It's like your subconscious and the universe is like taking you for a ride, and you just have to surrender eventually. But that is just so powerful. Thank you for sharing that journey. And what else is significant for us to really look at when we're integrating our lives?
I think for me, it's more of the same. It's awareness of the story that you're accepting or living in as truth, right?
Yeah.
It's just awareness, like, oh, wow, okay, I believe this because of this experience in my life. Our good friend, Mike Bennett, right? He has this beautiful saying that if our body is a computer system, we were given bad hardware from people who didn't know any better, and we accepted it as truth. But in this process of awareness, we get to recognize that that hardware no longer serves the entire system. So we then have the opportunity to put new hardware, new information in that allows us to expand that awareness, heal that part of ourselves, and go, okay, I am no longer a victim of that circumstance. This is how that helped me. I am now stronger. I like to exercise, right? And so it's only by breaking down the muscle through picking up the weight that allows that muscle to grow stronger. So if we can look at the things in our lives that were challenging, that were trauma, that were really hard, that gave us false information, that is just an opportunity to do a rep in our system to make ourselves stronger. That is a breakdown to make ourselves repair and become stronger. And I really love that analogy.
You know, I want to say thank you for bringing the energy of empowerment into the way that you speak about healing, because not everyone does, as healers and facilitators and medicine men and women. And I think we're finding our footing there, you know, just there is that delicate balance between enabling the victim consciousness, and also like really meeting people where they're at. It's a delicate dance. It's really, it's so nuanced. Everyone's feelings and stories are valid, right? And at the same time, there is that point where we're like, you are in the driver's seat now. You are fully aware now. You know the impact now. You have compassion for the person, for the parent, for the caregiver, for the circumstance or situation. You are able to give compassion there. And when you do that, this is what is possible. You can call your power back from that thing. You can step outside your comfort zone now. Like, you know, like we can really empower people. So I just wanted to say thank you for bringing that empowerment, and I'm going to add this in, and the masculine energy into the healing space, because I think it's so important.
Thank you so much. I do want to not gloss over the fact that when you're in those stories, it's hard. It's so hard. And we can talk about the beauty of the light at the end of the tunnel. And I know these things because I've experienced them and I've walked through them. But there are times where I've felt so lost and so disconnected, and it's so hard to have the energy then to get yourself out of that, right? And one of the things I truly believe about healing is this idea of radical responsibility. It's hard to become radically responsible for every thought, every choice that you make for your life. I mean this in the most positive way, it's a heavy burden to bear. Because like you said, you recognize you're in the driver's seat. You had no control over those circumstances. So many wise men throughout history have said, it's not about what happens to you, it's about your reaction to the things that happen to you. And that is taking radical responsibility for your thoughts, for your emotions, and for your actions. And so it's not an easy process of healing. It's not something that you can kind of just tiptoe into and see, okay, let's, figure out what this feels like. No, it's radical responsibility, and it's hard. And from experience, and I'm sure you would say the same thing, that freedom, that finally taking that backpack of weight off and deciding to put it down is such a beautiful, liberating experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so liberating. And you don't know, you don't know like what it feels like until you're actually in it, of putting that backpack down. And I think people get wrapped up in holding the backpack and hanging on to it. They're not sure what comes next when they put that backpack down, but you won't know. You just got to put it down. You just have to decide to put it down, right?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable to do something new. You know, excuse my French, but they say it's easier to stay in the shit that you know rather than to put that down and see what else is there. Because the fear of there might be more instead of this is going to be liberating is always a possibility. Absolutely. Right. It's more comfortable to sit in the things that we know, even though it's uncomfortable and it smells and it's terrible. Well, I'm comfortable here. So I'd rather do that than get really uncomfortable and see what else is there that needs to be let go as well.
Beautifully said. Tell us about the work that you're doing now in 2024.
Yeah, I was a part of a cannabis company for 5 years. We started around 2019, similar timing around starting FFS. And it was a really hard process building a business in a new industry that has ever-changing regulations. I was very lucky to have some really solid business partners that had their finger on the pulse of all of that. So we were doing things the right way. We really hit a stride around July of 2023. And then in November of 2023, our facility caught on fire and burned everything down. It was a big choice point for me. I had a big pull to come to Mexico to dive into the healing modality of Temazcal, which is a traditional sweat lodge. And that is part of walking the path of the sun dance. And I just couldn't let go. I couldn't walk away. It was really hard. I had committed to this business. I wanted to see it through. I wanted to build something for myself, and call it what you want, God, Great Spirit, energy, whatever it is you'd like to name it, gave me a very clear sign that it's time to go. And so February, it took a few months. I was still trying to hang on and fix and what are we going to do here? But in February, I decided I'm all in on my healing journey and learning the medicine that I desire to give to the world. And so I moved to Mexico in February. And since then, I've been deep diving and practicing Temazcal, sweat lodge therapies, currently also practicing ice therapy, which I know you've done as well. So we got a similarity there. And 2 years ago, again, so thankful for Fit for Service. 2 years ago, I started a men's group with two men from Fit for Service, Chris Hager and David Gilbert. And we've been running that for 2 years. So a couple of weeks ago, we had our 9th gathering in Costa Rica, first time outside of the US, and it was awesome. And I feel so blessed to be surrounded by men who are embodying their divine masculine, right? We started it because we needed it. And I still believe that that's my operating mode. I am a part of leading this men's group because I need the men around me to continue to give me checks and balances when I fall off, because I still fall off. There's always going to be work, right? I don't think that we find this ultimate, I am now the guru, I am now the teacher. No, there's many, many, many layers. And so Temazcal, sweat lodge therapies, fasting, right? Vision quest type stuff, men's group. This is the work that I'm currently doing. And right now, as a matter of fact, building the foundation to start really putting it out there and offering it to my community and anybody who feels called to experience some type of healing modality in that way.
Yeah. What a powerful trio, the three of you, Chris Hager, David Gilbert, and you. And I've had Chris Hager on this podcast, so I'm going to have to message David.
Yeah.
Now that I've had you, I got to let him know, like, hey, I have to have all three of you guys. The masculine work, the men's group, it is so important. Is there anything that you can say to support that, because I'm saying that from my perspective, because the majority of men that I had in my healing programs, in fact, I had a majority of men for whatever reason, more than women for the first 2 years. I mean, I think now I have a good idea, but and they were also in men's groups at the same time. So maybe my work provided a different component, you know. And I know that there are still some men breaking out of the stigma of emotions, right? Like men aren't supposed to feel or express or just get over it, or it wasn't that bad, or invalidating their experience. So I know that there still are some men just even still wrapping their head around the idea that there is some work to do. There are some things to look at so that they can show up for themselves or find the right community. Do you have anything else to support that?
Absolutely. You said the word, and it's community. It's doing it together. One, we went through it ourselves through Fit for Service. Me, David, Chris, Fitty Mike is also a really, really big part of it. And so it's community. And we really tried to build a space of vulnerability. And one thing I truly believe is leaders go first. So when we do our opening circle, and myself, Chris, David, Mikey, when we show emotion, we show tears, we show gratitude, we show that it's okay to be in tune with the soft part of yourself. We grow up as men, and it's provide, and it's ancient, right? The best hunter in the tribe was the most respected and held the most power. But he didn't do it alone, and he did it to serve the entire community. And so we've grown up with this: as long as you make the most money, as long as you can provide something. What's that saying? Children, women, and animals are the only things in this world that are loved just for what they are. But men typically have to provide something. You have to provide income, a house. I need to give, I need to provide, then I can be accepted. And so we're doing our best to rewrite that story and let men know that you're worthy just as you are, wherever you are, because you have a heart. It's okay to ask for what you need. It's okay to speak your piece. It's okay. And so there are many men's groups, and respect and love to all of them, that do their best to get men into their masculine. Let's wrestle, let's hunt, let's, do those things. And those things are very important, right? I'm not in any way, shape, or form denying that it's important to have that as a man and to be strong. Yes, take care of yourself, exercise, do your work in business, but bring awareness to it. And so our men's group is a little bit in the vein of, let's combine and integrate the feminine and the masculine within ourselves. I believe that's the perfect union of a embodied masculine man, right? Mm-hmm. When you're at work, push, do the things you need to do, right? Hunt, yeah, absolutely, have that energy. But when you get home and your partner needs to talk to you about something emotional, take a few minutes, access the compassion and the softness and the love that you have inside of yourself, so you can meet her in that space and not meet her in the same vibration of, well, just fix it, just get it over, just this, just that. No, feel. It's so okay to feel. And something we do in the D.M.E, which is Divine Masculine Embodied, which is our men's group name, is a big love ceremony. I'm a lover, right? I'm a sensitive guy. I have my strengths too, but I'm a lover. And so for an hour, we do a gratitude and appreciation meditation. For 1 hour, we run loving energy through our system for the small things, the plants, the trees, Mother Earth, the ocean, right? The children of the world. And we just run loving energy through our entire system. And there's really a difference when you come out of that, because as men, I think feeling vulnerable, feeling soft, feeling loving is sometimes foreign, because you have to just push everything aside, sadness, stress, all of that, love, push it all aside and stay on your path and focus. Well, we're creating a weekend where it's very, no, let's feel, let's love, let's open our hearts. That, I believe, is where the power comes in for a divine masculine.
Yes, absolutely. And just to further support that, I think men more than anyone, but everyone in our modern world, is programmed or conditioned to suppress feelings, but even more so men. But it holds us back so much more than we realize. So groups like yours are just so important for releasing those locked away emotions, those blocked away, suppressed emotions, because my belief, I'll ask you your belief, my belief is they're able to get to the authentic self. And what is the gift for you that you see in your work when they release those suppressed and blocked emotions?
It's so good. I feel very blessed in the fact that we have had both very spiritual men who have done their work, as well as men who have no idea about the work show up to our group. And especially when we see the men that have done no work and they show up and they're kind of very guarded, right? They shake your hand from a distance. They don't want to give you a hug. Like, I'm here to check you guys out type of energy, right? And I always invite them, say yes to this experience. You don't know, right? And if you're right at the end of it, fantastic. And maybe there's an opportunity for something to shift or change. And so when we come out of the weekend, especially for the men who are very guarded, very, very in their masculine, to be giving all of the other men 15, 20, 30-second hugs, right? And like really opening themselves and like, oh, wow. Like I'm literally getting chills talking about it because it's one of the most powerful things to witness. It's so beautiful to watch men say yes. And it's a masculine trait to be brave enough to say yes to something unknown, right? So we're still expressing in the masculine, but to come out and be vulnerable and be loving. And one of the guys, very non-talkative, I don't want to talk, I'm just here to check it out. By the end of it was like, everybody be quiet. I have something to say. I need to express this. And then again, just the long hugs and embraces. It's one of the most beautiful things. And I say it at every men's group. It's such an honor to be a part of that leader group, you know, to be somebody who is, I will forever be a student, but in that I get the opportunity to practice being a leader. And that is such a beautiful gift in my life as well.
Yeah. And I had chills too, by the way. Like it's so potent and powerful, the work that you and you guys, your team are doing. I didn't expect this conversation to go in the masculine direction, but here we are. And I love it. And we don't have much time left, but I wanna bring up a few things. You know, I think one of the myths around people doing spiritual work or being around spiritual people or being in a spiritual community is that they think that they're going to have to give up their masculinity or have this vibration like masculinity is toxic, or like all the different programs that are flying around out there. Obviously that's not true, but like, how can you address that for us, that myth?
I think with all things, there's duality. I love the idea of the double-edged sword. There is absolutely a toxic masculine, right? The one who wants to just drink the most and fight and try and pick up the girl. And yeah, sure, absolutely. That's true. That's true. There is also a very healthy masculine side, which is doing their work with awareness, with compassion, and with love. I was just having this conversation with the leaders of the men's group yesterday, and this idea of we're attracting people who are well-to-do in business right now. For whatever reason, it's the path. And these guys have questions about, I've always kept those things separate, spirituality and compassion and business, they're always separate. But what would it look like if even half of the people on this planet built a business through truth, compassion, and love? How much would change? So they're not separate. They're actually a beautiful opportunity to be intertwined so that then people can trust business, right? The healthy masculine builds things. It builds things in a right way, right? It does provide when it's asked to. It has the ability to step up and to step into that power because we are given that natural force. Wonderful. The idea of the mountain energy, right? To have enough spaciousness within ourselves to know who we are, to know our strength, that allows the feminine to flow inside of in a safe container. So now you have structure and you have creativity. And when we marry those two things, it's a beautiful, beautiful union. So all the way back to awareness, right? How are you showing up in business? How can you show up in truth and compassion and not just be there's an image that I love, and it says a boss, and it's a guy with a whip standing on top of a platform where people are walking him. And the other image is a leader, and it's the guys in the front helping pull whatever carriage that all of the other men were pulling. Right? So a big difference. Boss and toxic masculine, do the work, do the work, do the work. Leader is, hey, I'm doing this. Let's do it together, right? That's compassion. That's awareness of the fact that we are one, we are the same.
Beautiful. Bringing awareness into masculinity helps people really have that healthy masculine, that integrated masculine. And to your point, I think that, there's wounding on both sides. There's the wounded feminine and there's the wounded masculine. And then just somehow the wounded masculine has become like the stereotype for masculinity, but it doesn't have to be that way. Just bring awareness into you and to who you are, and let that rewrite the masculine story, the stereotype, like bring like a healthier archetype to that. I love that. I love that.
And know that you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Right? The wounded masculine thinks they have to do everything by themselves, but they have strengths that others have as a weakness, and they have weaknesses that others have as strengths. So when you find the community that fills the gaps, right? Like, I'm very sensitive in feeling. Yes, I love to exercise. I don't necessarily have that big push fight energy, but I know people who do. But I have the opportunity to help them get into more feeling and love and compassion. They have the ability to push me and fill the gap of, hey, I'm gonna help push you a little bit, right? This is what we're gonna do here. So find community, find people, right? Don't please to the masculine and the feminine, please understand you don't have to do this alone. You are not alone, right? We were given other humans for a reason, right? You don't have to do it alone. You are not alone. No matter how isolated or alone you may feel, you are not alone. Reach out, like, use the gift that we've been given of community and friendship.
I take a breath there because that is so powerful. I feel like when wounding happens in relationship, it takes the community to help with the integration and the healing. Any last words, any quotes, anything to leave us with?
I would love to take a moment and see if people would join us in maybe just feeling their heart for a second. Fantastic. So yeah, if you're driving or you're operating some type of machinery, maybe come back to this. But if you have the ability, just close your eyes for a second. And what I would invite is to feel that you have a pair of nostrils on your heart. And we're going to take 3 breaths. And when we take these breaths in, just feel the nostrils of the heart, fill that heart space, and allow that to fill the rest of your entire body. So yeah, we'll take the first breath in through the nostrils of the heart, fill up that heart space all the way to the top, and just let it out. Drop your shoulders, relax your face, relax your body. Another breath in through the nostrils of the heart. Feel it, feel it, feel it. In, all the way to the top. And release that breath again, relaxing just a little bit more, just a little bit more. On the final breath, in through the nostrils of the heart, filling the heart space. Breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in, breathe it in. And send all of that big love out to the universe. Send it out, send it out, send it out. I just want to say thank you for everybody that tunes into this. I want to say thank you to our Mother Earth for providing everything that we need to live, air, water, and food. my invitation is to just get back to gratitude for the small things. There are 1,000 things that happen every single day that are absolutely out of our control, that allow us to be here, to exist, to live and experience this reality. And I think that when we find gratitude for the small things, it opens up space for the bigger things to come into our life. So just a moment of gratitude and love for everything that we are provided, and that sometimes we forget that we are given. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. How do people find you?
Yeah, so Joseph_Tutuyari, Tutuyari. That's my Instagram. That's the best place to find me. Websites and things are currently under construction, but by the time that this really gets out, my intention is to have all of that set up, and they can find all of my offerings through my Instagram.
Yes, thank you so much for your time and your energy and your shares and experiences. Namaste, everyone.
Thank you.